My name is Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium and tarot card reader. I've always been curious about the supernatural, the paranormal, and psychic abilities, and I'm here to share my stories and interview folks who want to share their own stories with us. Let's get to it. So I recently went to go watch the movie Talk to Me, which is an Australian supernatural horror film, as Wikipedia puts it, directed by Danny and Michael Philippou. I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sure. And I'm just clicking through here. They are an Australian duo. They're twin brothers, and they are known for an Australian YouTube channel called RackaRacka, which I had never heard of. But my brother told me he was familiar with them. He used to watch them on YouTube, so he thought it was funny they created a horror film. And I thought I'd never heard of them before. But this was released in 2022. It premiered at the Adelaide Film Festival, and it got really positive reviews. And the film is about, I'll quote Wikipedia here, the film follows a group of teenagers who discover they are able to contact spirits using a mysterious embalmed hand, only for one of them to take things too far. So I went to go see it in a movie theater last week, and there were one or two lines in the film that made me think, oh, I need to talk about this on the podcast. So I'll first give you my overall review of the film. It was very entertaining. It is definitely something I could have watched at home. I didn't think it was one of the better horror films that I've seen recently. I thought it was very entertaining, but that's as much as I enjoyed it. Would I see it again anytime soon? No, I would not. So it's also a very graphic film, very gory, and I don't mind that. There were times where I was cringing because it was very hard to watch. So, word of warning that it is very gory. If you go see it, just be prepared. It's a little realistic, and that was very uncomfortable to watch for me. Again, I don't mind graphic content or gore in a horror film, but this was just like, it was very realistic, and it was very uncomfortable. It was hard to watch. Overall, the concept of the film is very interesting. It's a cool concept, but it's not one of the better films I've seen. It was fun to watch, period. And the ending was great. I thought it was a great ending. Really good ending, actually. And they've already announced a sequel, and it just came out, at least in the United States, this past July, even though it premiered in October of last year. So a sequel's coming out very quickly. I will probably watch that on TV or on a streaming service. I probably will not go to the theater to see it unless it looks really, really good. So what was the line that made me want to... The line in the movie, to be clear, that made me want to talk about this on the podcast? Well, as they're talking about this embalmed hand, these teenagers, they're talking about where it might have come from and who got it from who. Like, where did you get it from? Oh, it might be the hand of they say it might be the hand of a psychic or a medium. And when they said that, I was like, oh no, oh no. Yeah. And look, I wasn't offended by that. That doesn't offend me as a medium and a psychic. I just thought it was like, oh, how funny. Like, of course, someone's going to misconstrue or misunderstand what being a medium or a psychic is. And I think I just want to quickly talk about Hollywood and film and just how the film industry and even, this is nothing new. Even before the beginning of the film industry, people have always liked spooky stories. Spookiness attracts people in this very weird way. We want to be spooked. We like to get spooked. We like mystery. So this idea of like messing with spirits, with souls who have passed, and then them torturing you or like possessing you, or the idea of messing with things on the other side, it's a very attractive idea for people who want to get spooked by a story like that or about that. So I think Hollywood has really, well, not just Hollywood, just the film industry across the world, when it comes to psychics and mediums, there's this idea that well, first of all, that being a medium comes with it like super fantastical experiences and like um I have not seen any shows about mediums that like dramatization, like drama shows, like the show Medium with I think it's Patricia Arquette. I've never watched it. I've never watched Ghost Whisperer with Jennifer Love Hewitt, but I've heard that. Well, I've heard one medium say that Ghost Whisperer it gives this idea that a medium can see ghosts that mediums all mediums can see ghosts all the time. But no, I haven't seen it myself, this show, so I can't judge it. I can't say I agree or disagree with that. That's just what somebody said on their podcast or platform. But they also said the show Medium with Patricia Arquette is actually a more accurate depiction of what it's like to be a medium for the person who was stating this opinion. So, also, someone is honking their car endlessly outside my window. So apologize if you hear that. It's New York City. So back to the topic. It's very easy to take, like when you're not involved in this work of psychic mediumship and you just hear that it's about connecting with those who have passed. Well, number one, people have this fear. There's this cultural fear of death. And then attached to this cultural fear of death and mortality, there's this idea of heaven versus hell, and the possibility of there being an evil side to the afterlife. So then if there's an evil side to the afterlife, and there are people who can communicate with people who are in the afterlife, then there's a possibility, therefore, that you can communicate with something that is evil if you're not careful, or you can intentionally communicate and connect with something that's evil. So I think when it comes to the film industry, television, folk tales, urban legends, that kind of stuff, people always lean more towards the spooky end of this. And I have yet to be in a mediumship reading with somebody on Instagram Live or one-on-one in appointments and feel like there's something spooky happening. Ever. I've never felt scared. Ever. The only time I've ever felt scared, it wasn't during a reading while I was channeling. It was because I was in some haunted house. And I don't even like the word haunted, honestly. I'm really growing past using the word haunting or haunted. But I'll just use it for lack of a better word. When I've been to a haunted house or a haunted property and things have happened, I have felt spooked out because... Number one, in an old house, the lighting isn't always great. It's a little dim. They also purposefully dim the lights sometimes to make it spookier because you're there for a ghost tour or a paranormal investigation. Things are usually done in the dark. I'm already sort of afraid of the dark to a certain extent. Not as much as I was when I was a kid, but I'm a little afraid of the dark. So there are other circumstances that make for a spooky environment for you to get scared. Like, actually, I will tell you that when I was at the Farnsworth House Inn in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I have a whole podcast episode about this crazy experience, amazing experience, I remember the second thing that happened that night was that I felt something touch my elbow or my arm. And it felt like a spider web. And I told the tour guide, just to quickly recap for those who've already listened to the episode. If not, definitely go listen to it. It's a fun episode. I told the tour guide, so I think something just touched my arm. And they asked me, did it feel like a spider web? And my head just went, oh my God, yeah, it did. That's exactly how it felt. I told her, yeah, it did actually. She goes, that was them. That's them touching you. And it was such a lovely feeling. I didn't feel very spooked at all. I felt almost like honored and grateful that I got to experience that. It was at the end of the night when the loud bang happened above our heads. That's when I was scared, pardon my language, shitless. Scared shitless. But it's because it was a loud bang. And I think my brain was associating a loud bang with a violent action, like violent force. But the fact of the matter is, we were telling them, can you make a noise? Can you make a noise? Can you make a noise? And then they make a noise, and then they scared us shitless. So, I don't know, maybe when I'm on the other side and someone's telling me, hey, can you tap tap for yes. And then I try to tap. I'm taking all the energy I can muster as a soul and try to tap. And maybe it's not loud enough. Can you do it louder, please, Juan, from the other side? And then I do a really, really loud tap that freaks them out. And they're like, oh my God, we're not coming here again. And I'm like, well, you asked me to tap. You asked me to make a louder noise. What do you want from me? Maybe that's what ghosts and spirits on the other side are feeling and saying to themselves when we ask them to do things to prove their existence in a space with us. They do the thing and then it freaks us out, and then we get upset and we get scared and angry and nervous, and it's like, well, you asked to connect with me and you asked me to make a noise. Here I'm making a noise as best as I can, and I'm just scaring you. What's the point? I don't know. I'm just making things up as I go. I don't know. That's just, it's a theory. A soul has never told me that. But if you think about it, it makes sense. If we want them to prove their existence around us, then they do it, and then we get really scared and act as if it's evil. Maybe it's not evil after all. Now, I'm not saying evil doesn't exist on the other side. I believe there's free will power on the other side the way there is in the human world, the physical world. But I think most of the times we're just interacting with neutral spirits who are they're just hanging out. And we're just scared because of the things we've been taught growing up about connecting to the other side, and the movies we've seen and the TV shows we've seen. So I think it's really important that we remember that when seeing movies like Talk to Me, that it is one person, or in this case two, because it's written by two people. It is two people's idea of what the realm of mediumship and psychic abilities, what it entails. Honestly, my life as a psychic medium, it's exciting on the level of I get to connect with the souls of people who have passed and get to share messages and interpret those messages with my clients in real time. That's exciting to me. But if you're thinking that my life as a medium is exciting because lights flicker on and off every week in my home, I see spirit at the corner of my eye every other day, I feel spirit through body chills every day, that's not happening for me. And maybe I need to be more open and I can work on that, but I feel fine. I don't feel like I need to do hard work in any direction. I just need to just be as I am and continue developing. And that doesn't mean that bizarre, extraordinary things are happening around me all the time in my home. I don't live a life where I'm interacting with a ghost or a soul every day or seeing them every day. That's just not me. That's not my experience. It may be for the next medium, but it's just not mine. So I want to really drive home the point that what is presented in entertainment is this fantastical idea, or like that mediums and psychics live these fantastical lives where there's always drama with the spirit world. There's always hauntings and always a conflict, and it doesn't have to be that way unless maybe we're seeking it out. And I'm definitely not seeking out those conflicts. I'm not seeking out those experiences because I got enough to worry about in my life. So sitting in the movie theater and watching Talk to Me and hearing that line that this hand might have belonged to a medium or psychic, which is kind of bizarre because I can't imagine someone cutting off my hand and then they're using my embalmed hand to connect to the spirit world. I'd be pissed. Give me my hand back. Put it back in my coffin, or cremate it with the rest of me. Like, what's your problem? Oh, people are interesting. They're interesting. Well, it's kind of like Ouija boards. When I was watching this movie, I was thinking, oh, this is kind of like a comment on Ouija boards in so many words. Like, don't mess with a Ouija board. They never mention a Ouija board in the movie, from what I remember. But it's like Ouija boards. People are very afraid of Ouija boards. And I personally don't want to play with a Ouija board. Maybe my mind will change. To me, playing with a Ouija board or using a Ouija board or a spirit board is, to me, gamifying. It's like making connection with the spirit world a game, but that's because of the way I was brought up. So I will not touch a Ouija board. I prefer not to use a Ouija board. But I know people who do use spirit boards and Ouija boards to connect, and they're just fine. They're safe. They seem safe and they're happy. And one of them is someone that I really admire as a medium. and she's awesome. And I look up to her so much, and she has no issue using a spirit board. So again, it's based on our upbringing. It's based on my upbringing. It's based on my perspective that I learned from my parents and my culture and my church and my community. So much goes into it. So I see Ouija boards as therefore being spooky, but others may not. So I think the intention matters a lot. And that's what I want to really drive home here, is that the intention matters so much when it comes to this work and how you approach mediumship and psychic abilities. If you're a bunch of teenagers, I mean, when I was a teenager, I was pretty not smart. I was not thinking with my head all the time. We do silly things because we want to spook ourselves or we want to try things out. And we're not very mature. So if a bunch of teenagers are trying to provoke something on the other side, it's going to respond. It's going to give like for like. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but it's going to respond in kind. It's going to respond the way you're reaching out to it. If you want to provoke it by cursing at it, a spirit in a house, it might tell you, get out of my freaking house and make a loud noise. Because how would you feel if you walked into a home that belonged to somebody and you tell their soul, F you effing this, why don't you show yourself if you're real? How would you feel if you had a guest in your home, an uninvited guest, or a guest that just wasn't respecting your space? You would throw them out too. So, but then people are like, oh, it's an evil spirit. No, maybe it's just pissed off that you are invading its space or that you are walking into its space without respect. So, movies, TV shows, I think we have to take it all with a grain of salt. So watching this movie, I'm like, if only they knew that mediums don't live life like this. Mediums don't get their hands cut off and then it's used to summon spirits. But anyways, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But hey, that's what attracts audiences. That's what gets people going to the movies and watching TV shows. So that's all I wanted to say. Just wanted to share my quick thoughts on this movie because it really spoke to me. I really thought, ooh, those two lines about a medium or a psychic, I felt that. I wanted to talk about that. So go see it if you'd like. I don't trash it. I think it's a fun movie to watch, but I would personally wait until it comes to streaming service. But if you like to watch it on a big screen, which I did enjoy watching it on a big screen in that moment, go see it in a movie theater. And no, I was not paid to talk about this movie. This is not an ad. I am not a reviewer or a critic. I just wanted to share my thoughts on the whole mediumship psychic part of this movie, which is very small. It's only a small mention, but it really got me thinking. So I'll see you on the next episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day. If you have a question or topic you want me to cover on Third Eyesight, head to my website, juanfranciscospirit.com/contact, and send a message my way. If you really enjoyed this episode, leave a review wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate it.